The following program is being funded by the Harmony Hill Performing Arts Foundation, protecting creativity throughout the Northeast and the world. Ladies and gentlemen, and children of all ages, welcome to the Overall View, the program that lets you see from God's perspective the entire world and how God sees it all. Your hostess for this travel adventure is Josephine Russo, presenting for you the big picture. Because once you see the larger picture, everything else will seem smaller by comparison. May your troubles be few and your vision be large. And now, here's Josephine Russo.
Doris, how are you?
Doing okay, LaTanya. How are you?
I'm great. It's really good to have you today. We are looking forward to talking with you today. Are you excited about what we're talking about today?
You know I'm always excited to talk about this subject. Yes.
Doris, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, in terms of birthright, I'm a southern-born girl from Savannah, Georgia. I spent about 5 years there and moved to a wonderful little town called Itta, Mississippi. And it is exactly as it sounds. It translates into Little House in the Woods. My mother and father were both college professors at a university called Mississippi Valley State University. And my parents grew up poor, but made a good life for themselves. But they never forgot where they came from. And so with that, I saw a model in giving back and doing things for others. And so this is kind of how I adopted and came to where I am today. But to continue with where I went in my travels, stayed in Mississippi for about 12 years, got my formative years there, went back to Savannah to go to school. Did 1 year of teaching, classical pianist, and taught music at the high school level, choral and band. Then got the call from corporate America that says, we can make you a deal. And so with that, I, took my bags, left teaching, and moved across country to California. Been here ever since in California. Did corporate America for about a decade, if you will, marketing, troubleshooting, that kind of thing in a couple of corporations. But then I began to have my own children, got married and had my own children. And I wanted to do something with my children, but I also wanted to go back to that life that I remember my mom and dad showing me, that life of giving back, that life of not forgetting where you came from, that life of helping others. And so this was an opportunity for me to, one, be with my children, but I also went into child development, which afforded me the opportunity to not only be there with my children, but to work with families. And now I'm back into what I really, really want to do. That then evolved into, various levels of working with children from, doing the floors all the way up to, executive director. And I actually founded a school in Bakersfield, California that is still in existence today. It's now a K through 8th grade academy, I believe. It's called Agapeland Christian Center, and it's probably changed a little bit in the name, and that was for our church. And then from there we moved to the Bay Area, up to the San Francisco Bay Area, and that San Francisco Bay Area, then I had an opportunity to find out about a prison opportunity to become actually a hostess for the families that were waiting for their family members, their children were going to be in this little program. This little program allowed for children to have contact visits with their incarcerated parent. But in that, I was excited about them getting that visit, but I also learned a lot about the families that were left behind and some of the challenges and issues that they were dealing with as a result of the family emergency. And I said, I found my niche. This is where I want to be. Went back to school, and from there began the work that I do today. And yes.
Doris, you have an awesome testimony, I've heard. And you also have an awesome background. Listening to what you have to say, I'm very interested in the ideas, the plan, the future, the vision, where you're planning to go with this, your family background, as well as the not leaving a child behind piece. Tell us more about that. I think that is very inspiring, and where you plan to go with that. Out of your passion, basically, what I'm asking is exactly where do we go from there?
Wow, what a great question. You know, as I shared, I started out as a hospitality room hostess, if you will, for this program at a correctional facility. Found out about, what the families were going through. An opening came in this particular program, and because I'd been such a faithful volunteer, they hired me, and I had the background to do the work from the child development. Got inside, and oh my goodness, my life has never been the same. Working with incarcerated mothers and fathers and seeing the joy that came upon their face when they saw their children. But not only that, how the children were changed when they left. And so it gave me a different perspective of what happens with incarceration, because we hear things on the outside and we want to map that as the big picture. But what I discovered was children love their mothers and fathers regardless of the things that they've done. You and I may see them as a person who has been a robber. You and I may see them as a person who has hurt someone, but to that child, their mother, their father, and to that mom, their son or daughter. And so what I discovered was how important it was to keep families together. Because the nature of the program, I had an opportunity to see not only the incarcerated parent, their children, but their family members who brought them there. So I heard the stories from both sides of the fence, if you will, both sides of the bars, in this case we would call it. And so over 25 years of this work, not only on the inside in the correctional facility, but also in family preservation programs where I worked inside the homes of the families with relative caregivers who, the grandmothers, the uncles and aunts who step up to keep their children out of foster care so that they can, stay intact and have some semblance of family. I worked in a drop-in care center for people who had been out of work for many, many years trying to get back on their feet. So that'd be one less thing they had to be concerned about. Who's going to keep my children? Because if you've not had work, you certainly can't afford to do child care. So this was a program that was designed to help them have that one less worry and know that their children were safe while they were trying to move on with their lives. I also helped to design a mentoring program for children of incarcerated parents, a transformative mentoring program, which means simply that not only are they getting to do the great things that they love to do, maybe experiences that they may never have had, but there are objectives that must be met. So if you're mentoring for 1 year, we have to make sure that child's grades are improving. If you're mentoring for 1 year, that family is more cohesive than they may have been before the year started. Not just having a child and taking them to games and doing things that are fun, part of it, but the big picture is that there should be a change that comes about, so thus the transformative mentoring program. So out of all of this work on both sides of the bars, I've had the opportunity to have the opportunity to see what goes on from various vantages, and with that, recognizing that something has to be done. So with the Saidiana project, which in Swahili means to help each other, we have stepped out to change the way America sees families affected by incarceration and the formerly incarcerated. Because once we see people as monsters, once we call them animals, once we call them beasts, that's the way we're going to respond to them. I believe that if we can meet people where they are, we have a better chance of helping them to become who they can be or to reach their best potential. If we recognize people by their humanity as opposed to their issues, we have a better chance of helping them to do what they need to do. So the goal of Saidiana movement is to close the gap between what is and what ought to be. And we're not calling on people that just have been impacted. We're calling on people who probably have a pushback from it and say, I'm not, please, this person did this, that, or the other. And rightfully so, there should be some anger about that. But what we have to recognize is they've done their time. Now, the only way we're going to help them not to do time over and over again is to receive them back as human beings. If we keep saying no jobs, no housing, no access, no assistance, no voting, no this, what are they going to do? What is the first law of nature? The first law of nature is self-preservation. If I can't do my self-preservation because because I'm not allowed, I'm going to take some of yours. And that's what we're seeing happening over and over across this country, because we're not allowing people to move on with their lives. I don't want your piece of the land, but I have to take yours if you won't let me get mine. And so ultimately, I think that we have a door that's opening right now, because there's so many people coming back as a result of, 25 to life is coming to an end when this whole drug war thing came, because that's what most people are coming back with, drug felonies, because they had a little bit too much dope, or they might have been a warlord, a drug warlord. But the bottom line is, most of the people who are coming back have not been people who have offenses that have been, where they've killed someone. And so we need to help people move on. But they're caught in this trap, if you will, of not being able to vote, not being able to get jobs, not being able to get housing. And if you add on top of that a family that has not been allowed to stay together, and I say not allowed because most of the people who are incarcerated are from marginalized communities. They're in our urban communities. Where are most of our jails? In Timbuktu, California, Timbuktu, Utah, Timbuktu, Oregon. So they're 100 miles plus away from the family who they're leaving. So it becomes an impossibility for most families to be able to afford to stay together in the process of incarceration. When you are put in a place where you're placed to be punished, the job is not for the people. The correctional officer's job is to keep people out who are supposed to be out of the community. They're supposed to keep them locked up. So our job is to make sure that families are able to go back and be there with their families, keep them human, keep them connected to what's going on the outside. So when they come back to us, they have a better chance of still being human. If you've been left to rot, can't go play, you can't talk, you can't do this until I say you can, without having any other human connection, there's going to be a chance that you're going to come back here alienated from the world in the process. So we're about telling people that we need to keep families supported, that we need to help families get out to the prison, that we need to help families, be mentored, whether it be children being mentored, families being mentored, adults being mentored. We're asking corporations, we're asking churches to come together around Skype type centers. We've got technology now that can keep people connected without them actually being there. But it's going to require some coalescing. Correctional facilities coming together with churches, correctional facilities coming together with organizations. And I say to organizations that are looking for a great national project, go out to the hospitality rooms and create rooms that are cozier for people. Then they're going to feel good about coming to visit. So to make a long short, because I could go on and on and on, what we're asking and where this is going is that we say it to America, let's close the gap, roll up your sleeves, change your mindset. And that general lack of interest that we have, it must be erased. Because the biggest problem we have, not only with this challenge in America and almost every country on the globe, is stigma. People disdain, by and large, folks that are impacted by incarceration until it hits their household. And if it hadn't hit their household, I don't have anything to do with it until my son or my daughter is behind bars, and then you understand. But it's all part of humanity. And what we tend to forget is, whether we like it or not, 95% are coming back home. And so, are we ready to receive the 95%? Not as I speak. 750,000 are coming home this year, next year, the year after that, and the year after that. And with the rules that are now coming down, they're trying to thin out the prisons because they're overcrowded. And so we can't stand back and say, get more police. More police is not the answer. More police will feel good, but it's going to take it back to the same problem that we have. So at the end of the day, if we recognize that you, I, all of us have to find our place, whatever that may be, whatever your comfort level is, whether it be everything from writing a check to getting down in the trenches and going into the homes and working specifically with the families and the formerly incarcerated, and everything in between. Once each of us finds our space, little by little, this big elephant in the room will be taken to bite-sized pieces and be manageable again, and public safety will return. Violence in the street will decrease. We'll begin to see a trust again. We'll begin to talk to each other and be comfortable with each other and not have to be skittish about who's who, because we've treated each other like the human beings that we all are.
That's right. What a fascinating statement, Doris. I am very excited, even still, what you're talking about. Most importantly, I hear you talking a lot about the family. You're showing concern and care about them. You're concerned about what's happening in the community. And I've also been told that you have a movie. In reference to your movie, I know we need to discuss that movie and tell us, based on what you just shared with us, where exactly will this movie be able to play a huge role in helping the community?
Well, thanks for asking that question, Latanya, but I'm going to back up a little bit before I go to respond to your question about the movie, the film. I am also an author, and my book is entitled After the Bungee Jump. There's still a lot of jerking going on. It follows a mother's 8 years of incarceration, but it also follows the family for that same period to take a look at what's happening on both sides of the bars, the collateral damage, and what mom is going through while she's back back at the ranch, if you will, so that when the reader is done, they have an understanding of some of the crisis and how it looks collaterally. But it also takes a look at the community, how the community is responding to the family that's left behind, so they can maybe see themselves and maybe some of the things that they might not have been conscious that they have done. So quite frankly, I set out only to write a book. And that was what I said. I said, oh, I'll feel good. I've left my legacy, my little piece. When I'm gone, my little book will be on somebody's desk, dusty or not. But we'll have my name on it. But a power higher than me says, everybody doesn't read. So what are you going to do about it? He said, you need to do a documentary. And what the goal of the documentary is to say, here's some things that are being done across this great nation on behalf of this population. Some amazing people who are dedicated their life and service to helping, but it's nowhere near enough. And so it gives the viewer an opportunity to see some of the kinds of things that are happening. They are enlightened, if you will, visually with some of the things that are happening to the formerly incarcerated when they come back home, some of the things we talked about in an earlier response to one of the questions. But they're also being asked, what are you doing about it? Because if you're not doing anything about it, then you can't complain about it. You can't criticize something that you're not helping with. We all raise our hands, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? Oh my goodness, how did it get this bad? Oh, somebody ought to do something about this. I always say when somebody says that to me, get a mirror. Last time I looked, when you get a reflection back, you are somebody. So you need to find out what it is that you can do to wrap around. So literally, the documentary is a call to action documentary. It is entitled Stains, Changing Lives After Incarceration. Now, let's talk about a stain in terms of metaphorically what it means. Clearly, when someone has a stain on their shirt, I could have on the most beautiful dress, went to Nordstrom's or somewhere and had on everything working, but I got a big stain on my shirt. You can't hear what I'm saying for wondering if I didn't know about that shirt, right? That stain that I have. And so the stain is an analogy for what happens in the lives of people who find themselves in trouble. Wrong place, wrong time. Actually did do something wrong that they need to be incarcerated for. But when they come home, all we see is the stain. We can't get our eyes off of that stain, so we miss the other percentage of them that's still usable, still valuable. And as we continue to keep zeroing in on the stain, it becomes like a deep set stain. And you know what happens with deep set stains? The more we try to work on them, they spread. Their color, their smell, everything spreads. So with those type of stains, we have to cut them out and start all over again. And that's literally what we're asking the public to do. Cut that stain out. All of us have sinned and come short of the glory. Everybody, I would venture to say, out here has done something that, if they had been caught, would land them in jail. They just didn't get caught. And then they sit on their pious crime, and then say, I'm better. No, you just didn't get caught. And so with that, we have to remember the humanity that exists within each of us. And so I'm asking America to remember the humanity. And though the stain is there and was there, it's been taken care of. And if we wrap around a person, not all, everybody, there's nothing absolute except what they say, death and taxes. So there's no absolutes. Everybody is not going to want to be helped. Every family is not going to want that person back in their life. But for those that do, and for those who really want to move on with their lives, those who have not become institutionalized, those who want to do better, those are the ones that we're saying, it's time for us to make a change. So we cannot let these stains be indelible for Everybody across the board, because there's a collateral damage. The stain does spread to the families. Oh, I can't let my child play with your child. Oh my gosh, it might be catching. Or the teacher who doesn't understand. Or the mom who can't tell at work because she's going to be treated different. Or she's in housing, subsidized housing. And the rules are if there's been a crime committed that they have to go, so they have to do it on the down low. While in the community, everyone may know that they're affected by incarceration. Outside of that community, a different face has to happen. And even within some families, I'm sorry to say, there's some family members within families that don't know where their loved one is. They think they're back east in school, or back west in this case, since I'm on the East Coast, or that they're doing something in the military. All kinds of things because of the shame, the isolation, the finger pointing, the whispering that goes on when people do know. They treat you differently. There's a step back. Oh my goodness, I didn't know. Oh, okay, well. Be seeing you. I can't talk to you anymore. So we've got to stop that foolishness, because there again, as I said, but for the grace, go you or I. And I'm going to give you an example of what a lot of people have done and think nothing about it. Bootleg DVDs. You see it before it makes the big screen. What's that? That's a federal felony. Okay, or you saw the beautiful dress that was in Nordstrom's, and it's $1,500. Well, the corner store boutique girl can get it for you for $300. That's receiving stolen property. Or you go to the gala all dressed in your beautiful gown. You have one or two drinks, too many, and you drive home. You get a DUI. Man, if it's your second one or your third one, you could be in prison, just like that. So everyone, if they think about it, has done something. Or, whether on the corporate level, the fraud that goes on the corporate level. So I just want people to stop being on their high throne and recognizing that all of us have done something wrong. And when we've done the things that we've done wrong, if you make a mistake at your job, you want your boss to give you a second chance. You don't want your boss to say you got to go. So we have to be willing to give those who want a second chance, who really want to move on with their lives, the opportunity to do so. And all this blocking about you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do that, we're going to have to stop it, because it's not doing anything for us. Entrepreneurial ideas, helping people to move on that way, whether it be, if you don't want to hire, then show them how to do their own thing. Be some part of it. Corporate interviews where people who from the Fortune 500 company tell people what you need to do. Clean up your life. Get your pants pulled up. Whatever it happens to be, so that they understand. But everybody's got to find their niche. Yes.
Doris, it is awesome just listening to your story, listening to your testimony, listening to the many facets that go into play with what you're trying to do with your documentary / movie, Stains, looking at the different elements that are involved in what you're trying to make happen by way of mentoring and all of that. And here we are today. You've traveled all over the country practically, at least 10 states that you talked about so far, with many more to come. Many more to come. I definitely believe that. I'm challenged today myself. And I see today we're out here and we're at this golf tournament. And we have this possible fundraiser that's going on. Can you tell me more about this fundraiser awareness campaign?
Thanks, LaTanya, for asking, because this is our very first annual Northeast Golf Classic. It's being held here at the Cedar Glen Golf Course in Saugus, Massachusetts. I am so excited, because what we're hoping to do is not only come back here, if we're calling it annual, but to have these golf tournaments all over the country, so we can raise awareness that there is a crisis, national crisis in this country, that each of us have to be a part of reversing. We are part of having created it, whether we know it or not. Mandatory sentencing, 3 strikes you're out, truth in sentencing, that have left people rotting in jails for 25, 30, 50 years, then to come back to us either with health issues or emotional concerns or things that they're not able to assimilate back into our community. So what we're doing is, what I shared with you earlier, is to get the word across the country so we can begin to connect the dots. And this Saidiana movement, this Help Each Other movement, begins to stamp out the stigma that's associated with this population. Stamp Out Stigma, as we know, works with every crisis that we have. But we're using that as our buzzwords, if you will, because once we change the heart of people as it relates to the people that are impacted, we believe that literally what we're seeing now will begin little by little to change and little by little to be reversed. We would like to see Saidiana centers crop up all over this country. Saidiana Center being nothing short of a support group and a resource center. And that people, once they know that there's a Saidiana Center, they know that that's, if you will, a safe house for families that are impacted by incarceration. Saidiana Center in Sauga, Saidiana Center in Boston, Saidiana Center in Memphis, Tennessee. And as they grow and become more connected, what's going to come out of support groups, which always comes out of support groups, is we learn what's really needed by people who need support, as opposed to us throwing money at things that we believe ought to happen, but we never ask the people who need the support what they need. So if we have support groups crop all over the country for folks that have been impacted by incarceration, they are going to tell us, as they say, we need this, we need that, then we're going to create programs that are exactly what needs to be in every area. We can't create programs across this country that look all alike because the needs are not all alike across this country. But as we ask the people who are in the particular areas what they need, we'll be able to be in a better chance to give them back. So that's the goal. If we can create those Saidiana centers along with all the other things that I said, then we begin to get coalitions of people that can make things happen. So I'm excited about this very first tournament, very first fundraiser here in the Massachusetts area.
Doris, I want to thank you so much for this interview today. Wow, so much to think about, so much for us to ponder over, so much for us to move forward on. Going forward, though, I'd like to ask you the question, how can people get in touch with you? How can they move forward? How can they put their hands to the plow? Can you help us with that today?
Yes, I'd love to. I can be reached at stainsthemovie@aol.com. That's STAINSTHE movie@aol.com. My website is www.stainsthemovie.com. Please visit my website, get more information about the project, hear some of the same things, share it with others. Like me on Facebook. Let's Saidiana is one of my pages, or Doris Mangrum is one of my pages. Please like me and spread the word. We share a lot of good information. We let you know where we're going to be touring with the film. We let you know where we're going to be doing training in the community. So with all of those things, please reach out. Please contact me. If you have some ideas about things you want to do but you're not quite sure on it, we even give you ideas on how to get started. We give you ideas on things of, contacting organizations that are in your area that are already doing the work that you are doing, that we put you connected to those places, those programs, so that you can move forward. And so little by little, we make this thing happen. So thank you so much, LaTanya. I appreciate you so much. It's been great. It's been a lot of fun.
The preceding program was funded by the Harmony Hill Performing Arts Foundation, serving and protecting creativity throughout the Northeast and the world.